So I thought it'd be a good time to film a video about this, and I wanted to talk about kind of like the three pillars of the lifestyle music school model, and these three things are the things that you need to integrate into yourself, and what I've seen my most successful clients go through when they have created their six-figure studios as well, before they even touch anything about their offer or what their hybrid model is going to look like. So I wanted to share it with you because these are kind of like the foundations that I've found to being able to not just create a six-figure music school, but one that actually supports your lifestyle, one that actually aligns with the way that you like to run business as well. So I want to share a quick story about this first, because a lot of you may have been following me for years, may have been in my world, but some of you are also really new as well. I kind of wanted to share with you a quick story around like my first experiences as a coach. So when I first started coaching music teachers, I think it was like it's like the end of 2019, like beginning of 2020, right before COVID. I remember that. But I remember my first offer was being able to help college students create their own private studios so that they can make money for school, which was exactly what I was doing. Like, I was a college student, I was teaching piano, I had like a pretty big roster, and I was making the money so that I could just have some money to put into school and things like that as well. But I quickly realized that like college students don't have that much money to invest. So I quickly moved on to helping music teachers. And my first offering was to be able to help you fill up your schedule. And that was really, really fun to do. And I did it. I mainly taught teachers how to create content that would attract students in, which is what I was doing with like my neighborhood groups and stuff like that as well. And I had a lot of really successful clients in the beginning, and I was really proud. One of my first clients was Andrew Miller, and he's from South Africa. So shout out Andrew if you're watching this. But we were really successful working together. I think he got up to like 30, 40 students with the schedule, and so did a lot of my clients as well. But I was running into a problem that's kind of like the origin of why this lifestyle music school model exists in the first place. And it's something that not only did I go through, but many of my clients went through, and so many other teachers are still going through right now. Like, I'm a part of so many different like music teacher Facebook groups, and so many of them are facing this problem where they reach this 40 student plateau, and all of a sudden they're super busy and they can't take on any more students. And that was like what I went through as well, except that I couldn't even like reach 40 students. I was probably maxed out like 20 students because I had to make time for my own practice, myself as a student, and then I had to have a social life as well. So I just didn't have the time, and I was like running back and forth between. Hopefully those planes are not so loud. I was running back and forth between like going to different students' homes and stuff like that I just did not have a way to be able to grow. So quickly, I moved on to realizing that, okay, once my clients hit this 40 student mark, like I can't help them anymore. Like, how do I continue to serve my clients even when they reach that first benchmark, even when they first reach that first milestone? Because a lot of them were facing the same dilemma as I was, whereas like, I want to make more money. I know I'm meant to serve more students, but I just can't. I physically can't take on any more because I'm so burnt out. And that's what kind of brought me to this idea of like the hybrid model and creating this lifestyle music school model. So it first started off creating this hybrid model, and the hybrid model is really a way for you to serve students at an intimate level and also a scalable level as well. So when I say scalable, when you take on more students, it should not take on more hours. More students does not have to mean more hours. And so I started helping my clients, I started helping teachers create scalable models, helping them move to a group model and online course model. If they wanted a combination of those, that's where the hybridness really comes into play. But I was realizing that a lot of teachers would go through the same kind of traumas that they went through before in their music teaching like journey, where maybe they've tried group lessons before, maybe they tried to create an online course before, but it wasn't successful. Maybe they tried to launch it and their students weren't really on board with it. Maybe they tried copying someone else's model and tried doing a model that someone else did, but it didn't work out for them. And that's what I was feeling a lot with my clients as well. I would tell them, hey, this is what I did, this is what you should do as well. But the problem was that a lot of these teachers maybe didn't want to do group lessons. Maybe they wanted to just do an online course. Maybe it was the other way around. Maybe they didn't want to do an online course, but they only just wanted to do group teaching as well. And what I started realizing was that the way that which you grow a music school really, really matters. And I've talked to so many different teachers that have gotten past that 10K per month level, and I've seen it done in many different ways. So now my belief is that you can grow a music school in any different way. The difference here on whether it works for you or not is, does it support the lifestyle that you want? Do you want an open calendar? Do you want a bunch of lessons on your schedule? Like, depending on what you want for your lifestyle is the path that you should take to creating a six-figure music school. So with that being said, like I've seen it all happen. So now I'm like, it's possible in many different ways. What is the path that's going to work for you? And before you figure out the path, right, we have to have these like 3 principles I will share with you in order to be able to successfully like go through any path that you go through. Because like with what I work on with my clients, we work on creating our offers, we create our brands, we create our content strategy, but it won't matter unless we have these foundational places in, because you could try any of those, any different like strategy that you copy off someone else or make up one for your own. But again, if you don't have these, at least these 3 principles are the things that I've seen in every single one of my success clients as well. And those that have not just gotten to that 10K per month level, but also have sustained it as well, they have these things in their kind of like in their toolbox. So I want to share the first one here. The first one is courage. And that one is the first step, because that's so important. I had a podcast episode with with an amazing music teacher. Her name is Linda. So Linda, if you're watching this, shout out to you. One of the first steps that she shared in that podcast. Also, this podcast is coming up as of filming this, by the way. So if you're following the podcast, feel free to follow along for that one. But when Linda was moving from her traditional model of just teaching one-on-ones to a group model, she said that the hardest part was just that first step. The hardest part was just deciding, okay, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to commit to this new model. And it took a lot of courage from her end, because it's scary. And some of you may have had that experience of teaching groups before. Maybe you don't have any experience. Maybe you're not that comfortable doing that. But what I've seen a lot with like clients that I've worked with is that the ones that are really successful are the ones that lead themselves into that new model with courage, who ultimately decide, like, I am going to go all in on this because I know this is the path for me, even though it is scary, right? And that's the key thing to courage, right? It's not going to be easy. If it was easy, if it was comfortable, it wouldn't be courageous. It wouldn't be difficult. Or it wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be like super smooth sailing. If it's super smooth sailing, it doesn't take a lot of courage to be able to do that. But for my most successful clients, I have learned and I have seen that it requires like so much courage for them to be able to just make that move. And that is required for you as well. If you're in this path of like just staying that traditional model of just filling up your schedule, like you probably have had these feelings, these like this intuition that you need to make that change. Like the moment you have the courage to surrender to it and be like, I'm going to go all in, to this new model, even though I don't know what it looks like, even though I'm not super comfortable teaching in a group setting, even though I don't know how to create a course. Like, you having the courage to step into that and go all in and figure it out as you go, that's what's going to allow you to create that six-figure studio, right? Because the alternative, if we stay in the lane that we're currently in, like, how are you ever going to be able to get there, right? I fully believe that I have gotten to where I am because of these courageous moves that I have made in my journey. For example, like, just being able to be a music major and be a musician as my career and as my life, like, that takes a lot of courage. And for you, probably the same thing too, right? We don't go into this career path to make a bunch of money. Like, nobody really does. We did it because we loved it, right? And we took that risk of doing something that we love over something that society tells us would make a lot of money, right? You having that courage, carry that through your next chapter in your music school as well, and you will find that you will make insane moves in your business. Also, just being able to teach piano as well. I had the courage to just jump right in. I started teaching piano the summer before my music ed degree. So I didn't even know how to teach, but I decided I was going to be a music teacher. So I'm going to go teach. That's what I decided. And then last year as well, going all in on being a music producer. And this is something that I've been thinking about for so many years. I finally had the opportunity to go all in, but it took a lot of courage to be able to do that, because I didn't know how to, like, produce music. I didn't know where it was going to go, right? But nowadays, fast forward from beginning of 2023 to now, mid 2024, I've released over 30 songs, and now I'm like, I got the opportunity to be a resident DJ at, like, this day party that goes around in San Diego, and that's, like, amazing to me. And I never would have gotten to where I am now if I didn't have the courage to just make that first move. Just be able to declare, I am going to be a music producer, right? I am going to be a music teacher. And for you, I am going to create a six-figure music school. Like, that courage, the courage that is required to just make that move, but also become the person that is able to support that six-figure music school, is necessary. That's the first step. So courage, that is required, fundamentally the first step. Because the next step here, after that, the pillar number 2 is discipline. And discipline is a huge one. How I see it and how I've learned it is doing the hard work even when you don't feel like it, right? Because if you wake up every day and it was really easy to do the work and it wasn't hard, right? It wouldn't require that much discipline. But if it was just easy like that, then, like, everybody would be a six-figure music teacher, right? But it's not like that. It requires a lot of discipline. It requires you to stay consistent with your content. One of the things that I feel really proud of is that I've been really consistent in this business for, I think, like, the past 4 years so far. I've always shown up. I've seen other people in this business show up and disappear just because they weren't consistent with it. People have moved into different paths. And for you, and for at least my most successful clients, what I've seen is that it requires a lot of discipline, because it not only you not only have to make the move, okay, I'm going to go all in on this new lifestyle music school model, but also be able to stay consistent with it. It requires a lot of discipline. There's going to be times when you wake up, you don't feel like doing the work. You don't feel like showing up in your content. You don't feel like showing up to your community, but we still have to, right? It requires the discipline to be able to do that. And same thing, if we treated I always say this a lot to my clients, in that if we treat our business the same way that we have treated our own musicianship, like, it'd be so, like, that's the answer right there. That's the answer to creating a six-figure music school. It's being able to treat our business like our music. So, for example, for me, the reason why I was able to finished 30 songs in an entire year, and 28 of those actually were like in a row. 28 songs in 28 weeks is because of my discipline. It's because even when I was really busy, I still made the time for my music, because my love and my desire for producing outweighed, right, the other side of myself that didn't want to do anything, that didn't want to keep going. But I was able to stay consistent for 28 weeks, and that's what helped me become the producer that I am today, because I was consistent and disciplined with that as well. Think about all of the work that you have done since your music journey and how disciplined you were into your own craft. Like, what would it look like if you took that same amount of discipline into your business as well? Like, how far would you be able to go? It's probably amazing to be able to see that, because that's what I've seen with my clients as well. It's the ones that are disciplined when the challenges get to them, they still keep going. They're still able to continue doing the hard work even when they don't feel like it. So for example, I had one of my clients like start their hybrid model, right? And she's like a vocal teacher, and like she started her like hybrid model, and she probably had like 5 or 6 students go through it, and she quickly realized that like this is not the model that I want to teach in. So instead of giving up and throwing it all away, we just pivoted. We tried something else. We were able to take the feedback that she had and be able to change it into a new model as well. And that's what's been able to really help her thrive as well. And I found that when you get things like objections from students, right? If you get some students leaving, if you get some people saying no, it's not a bad thing. It's often like the necessary thing. It's like we're shedding old skin to make room for new people, to make room for the students that are meant for you as well. But what's required is the discipline, so that when you do face those challenges, when you're in the thick of it and trying to figure out, okay, how do I make this group model work? How do I make this online course model work? That you're able to continue moving forward despite all of those challenges. So that's the second one, discipline. Third one here, the last one, is creativity. This is a big one, because oftentimes we forget that business is a very creative, it's a very creative like industry. And at least when I thought of business, I thought it was like there's a cookie cutter way of doing this, that there's like a secret that these coaches know that I don't know, and that I need the secret. But the secret is that there is no secret. The secret is figuring out what works for you, and creatively figuring out solutions to your students' problems. That's the secret right there. Creativity is such a big part in this, because just like our music, right? Like our music, fundamentally, it needs to be creative. It needs to allow us to stretch our thinking, allow us to think of ways that, like, answers to our problems that really align with us. And for our music, it's so easy to think creatively, right? We could try interpreting the music in different ways. We could try putting our own interpretation into it, and we could try creating a set list with many different songs that might not work together, but we try it anyway, right? So when we're thinking creatively in our music, how can we do that with our business as well? How can we do that with our content? How can we do that with the way that we're teaching, the model that we're teaching in? How can we do that through the delivery of our teaching? It doesn't have to be like just a one-on-one setting for every single student, right? But the reason why I love the lifestyle music school model is that like we can think creatively on how can we serve students in a scalable way, but still give them amazing results, just like if they were doing one-on-one as well. And this is where like the whole value of being in a mastermind and being in community is so important, because we don't just get creativity just from like thinking, like being alone is a great way to find that creativity. I find that like creativity doesn't come from the external things, it comes from internal. It comes from us being that like antenna and capturing things that we see in the world and interpreting it for ourselves and creating it there. But like when you have different opinions, when you have different perspectives and different teachers sharing what's working for them, it becomes so much easier to have all the source material to work with for you to figure out what's going to be the best path for you as well. So for example, I've had a teacher go from like 4 one-on-one lessons per week, like weekly one-on-one lessons, to then chopping it down to 2 one-on-one lessons a month and delivering that. But then in their hybrid model, right, they're able to implement the course aspect to it. And in their group coaching, they're able to bring on experts. Like for example, for me too, like I'm doing this new thing called like the pipeline. And every single month, I add in new calls and new ways to deliver value to my clients. That's just really fun for me. And it's just a really great way to be really creative with the way that I deliver value to my clients, but they're still able to get that support from me just without needing that one-on-one time. So for example, like we started doing this content creation brainstorm session. And if you're in the community, you know, like if you've been there, you know what that's like. It's really fun. We gotta jam on content. We gotta share ideas. Also, I started doing like the community showcase, right? That's a creative way to continue sharing our culture of making time for ourselves as musicians. And then also I'm bringing on guest speakers as well. So these are just different creative ways that I'm using my hybrid model to serve my clients. But for you, right, like when you're creating your own lifestyle music school model, when you are implementing your own hybrid model, there needs to be a level of creativity into that. It cannot be as simple, it cannot be as boring as just asking somebody else what they've done and copying that. Like that's so boring, right? Is your business going to be really fun as a result of just copying someone else's model, right? Make it fun for yourself. Be really creative. Allow yourself to be really creative in the way that you deliver your value to your students as well. Like, I've shared this story a lot, but like the traditional model was really like mundane for me as a student. And when you're a student and you go through like these weekly lessons where it's the same thing over and over again, where you're working through the same method book over and over again, maybe you're having to repeat the same lesson to your students because they're not practicing, right? Like it becomes really boring in that model. And how likely is your student going to want to stay if that is their life in music? Yeah, at least for me, I was like saved. I was about to like ditch music altogether, and then I got into band, and that kind of like brought me back to music. But for you, really thinking about the experience of what your students are going through. Like, is it the same thing over and over again every single week? Or can it be more creative? Can you add more creativity into your model? Can you be more creative with the way that you deliver your value so that students are having a fun experience in your studio? Students are wanting to not only stay, pay, but also refer other students to your studio as well. Why? Because you're so creative in the way that you teach. That's what's going to help you stand out ultimately and allow you to then take on many more students without like burning out as well. So kind of a recap here. I know I'm just kind of speaking off my head. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But first off, courage. We have to have the courage to make that move, to go all in on your next chapter, even when it's scary, right? Courage to move forward even when it's scary. Courage to try the hybrid model even when you don't know what it's actually going to look like in the end. 2 is your discipline, right? Now that you've started it, we got to keep going. We got to keep it consistent. You got to do the hard work even when you don't feel like it as well. Even when students are maybe not getting results in the new model, how can you get that feedback and be able to make it even better, right? That's the discipline that it takes. And then 3, creativity. have fun with it, right? Business is the way that we stand out in business is being creative. It's not just following someone else's cookie cutter step. That's what I used to do, but nowadays I give the model to my clients. I show them what was working for me, but then now I can ask them, how do you want to do it? Right? How do you want to interpret this? How do you want to do it for yourself? That's where the creativity comes into play. And I feel like our creativity is expanded with the minds of other humans, with the minds of other teachers as well. So don't be afraid to collaborate with other teachers. Don't feel like they're competition. Don't be afraid to share what you're working on with others, but collaborate with them with the vision that they are going to help you as well, right? With the vision that you can take all of this data, everything from the source material, and create your own model. Because at the end of the day, like your lifestyle music school model is not something that anybody else will be able to tell you. It's something that you have to figure out for yourself. And that's why it's so special. That's why it's so unique. And that's why it's so valuable, because the model that fits for you is something that only you can be able to create. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to dive deeper into this too, I'll link a video down below that goes to my YouTube channel. I like to send this, it's like the full 10K per month guide. It'll go deeper into not just these principles, but like the actual tactical steps that it requires for you to create this new lifestyle music school model as well. So hope it's helpful, and I would love to hear your thoughts.